What is up, YouTube? This is Zach with Dreamedia Home Theater, and today I got something pretty interesting for you. I am going to be discussing whether to go with a Dolby Atmos 5.1.2 or a 7.1 system. There are a lot of factors involved in this, so I'm going to discuss the pros and cons to both. If you aren't one of my subscribers already, make sure you smash that subscribe button down below and give me a big thumbs up. All right, let's get into it. Alright guys, so this is a customer's theater that we just finished installing, and I was discussing with him the options for configuration in this room. And while I was doing that, I was thinking, you know what, I repeat this to people all day every day, so I figured I'd make a movie about it, or a little video for you guys. This is the configuration that you see right here for a 5.1.2. You can see you have your, well, let me step back. This is the actual room. You got your front left, you got your front right, and you got your center speaker. We're using the Clips reference premiere system. We got the RP 250s, actually the Pro 250 RPWs, front left and right, and then this is the 404C reference premiere. Now, if you look overhead, we have the perfect alignment for Atmos. They're right in the middle of the room, top mid. And with Atmos, you have options for top rear, which really wouldn't apply in this situation, as well as top front. So you can run up to 6 overhead Atmos. But in this situation, we're just running 2. We got the 160 RPCs up there. Then we got in the rear, the Pro 160 RPWs right here behind us at ear level. So with Dolby Atmos, you're gonna have the ground level effects, like the car screeching around the corner coming out of these speakers right here, and then you're gonna hear overhead your helicopter ripping around up there, or your rain, or you know, a transformer flying from the sky, or a piece of metal flying off a car, you know, in an action scene, stuff like that. So that's Dolby Atmos 5.1.2. Subs back here in this corner. You can either put it in the front of the room or the back of the room. It's completely up to you. Back of the room, you're going to feel it a little bit more in your butt. Front of the room, you'll feel it firing from the front of the room, at you. Now, this configuration shows exactly how it would be recommended for a 5.1.2. Now, let me discuss 7.1. So we're going to go to ampersand, and we're using a Denon receiver here. You can see this is the configuration if you were going to do 5.1.2 Atmos with top fronts. You can do front height as well. This wouldn't be considered Atmos. A and B, bi-amping, if the situation applied for like tower speakers, you can bi-amp them. Zone 2, so this isn't really part of the video, but with a 7-channel receiver, like this one here, I think we're using the Denon 2600. Yes, Denon 2600. What you can do is just do a 5.1, say like in a living room situation, and then run your patio speakers off of Zone 2 so that you save money. It kind of 2 amplifiers in this unit, a 2-channel amp and a 5-channel, or you can use all 7. So surround back, this is Dolby Digital 7.1. This is going to be really nice for just everyday content. So this isn't necessarily bad to do a 7.1 because you can be watching, football, you can be playing video games, you can be watching the Bravo channel with your wife. It's going to use all of these speakers all of the time. So for standard programming, 7.1 is really a great option because it's gonna really use the full potential of your system more frequently. Now, if you're gonna be watching movies, which that's what this customer is primarily using the room for, then you want to do a 5.1.2. Let me run through the rest of these options here. So you can also do Dolby enabled speakers, basically caps that sit on top of your bookshelves in the rear of the room and fire up and bounce off the ceiling and then back down towards your ear. Or you can do them on the front as well, like this. You see this in a lot of like kits just because it's like a plug and play solution. It's by no means optimal. It's not the best solution. If you can, you really want to put those speakers directly above your head, like right here. But you know, if you're doing it yourself or you just want a quick, easy solution, I really urge that if you're even going to consider doing Atmos caps, make sure you have flat ceilings. See how like in this room here, we got a vaulted ceiling? If you did Atmos caps in here, the audio would just be bouncing all over the place. And by the time it actually reaches your ear, it's going to sound distorted and not very accurate. So definitely need nice flat ceilings, which is kind of how they demonstrated in this picture right here. Just a nice, perfectly square room, which very rarely actually applies. Top middle, we're back to what we first started with. So this is going to be my recommendation if you're using the room for movies, because you're going to get that separation in channel and it's really going to give you the full movie experience. I will play a demo for you guys right after I finish setting this up. What we're going to do is go through the calibration setup. I'll also kind of touch on a couple of my favorite presets and little things that you can optimize. One other thing that you guys can do whenever setting this up during the Odyssey setup system, see how I just have this little mic plugged into the front? That's the first thing you're going to do is run this back to your primary seating area, and you're going to run it in all of the seating positions to really optimize it for the room. What it's going to do is cut back on the reverb, do room correction, assign the appropriate amount of power to each speaker in the room. But right here, if you've never done it before, you can go to view speaker terminals. So it'll actually tell you exactly what speakers go to what terminals on the back of the unit. So if you're doing it yourself for the first time, gives you a visual display on how to do it. Okay, so we're going back. We're assigned properly, and we're going to go ahead and start this calibration, and we're going to be dead quiet for a moment so that it can do its thing and run through the setup. Start off in the middle of the room, and you're going to work your way around. Okay, so that's the first listening location. We're going to do that in all the different listening locations. And they also have a little paper setup system where you can put it on the little pedestal. I have set up these exact speakers so many times. I know exactly what performance I'm going to want out of the Odyssey setup. So I'll probably run maybe 2 more locations and then just check to see kind of what it did and then manually do an EQ on it. But you guys get the idea. It's super easy, super, consumer geared. It gives you an on-screen display. Just follow it through and let it do its thing. It's going to measure the distance in the lines, assign the appropriate amount of power, and correct for the reverb in the room. You can see like this room here doesn't have any acoustic treatments, so this step is crucial. If you don't run this Odyssey setup, you're wasting your money. Okay guys, so we just finished running the Odyssey setup in all 3 listening positions, and I'm going to go ahead and complete. You can also run it in the 4th, 5th, and 6th location. I believe this one has 6 locations, and it'll just make it that much more accurate. If you're not familiar with tuning your system, I would recommend running it in all locations. Like I said, I've just used these speakers a lot, as you guys have seen from our YouTube channel. So we're gonna complete, and it's asking if we would like to enable dynamic EQ. I would say yes. You can see it advertises what it is going to do, which is basically apply these settings to maintain bass, clarity, and surround sound at low volumes, which is what you want. No matter, you shouldn't have to crank your system to 100% to hear all of your effects and bass coming through. Dynamic volume, yes. And then you're going to disconnect your mic. Speaker calibration is complete. So I'm going to go into the manual setup and show you guys what it did by default. And the amp assign, you can see it is set properly like we set it. You got your speaker configuration. And this is a really popular question that I get a lot. Do you assign your fronts as small or large? You can see the picture doesn't change. Their pictures they have on this setup are kind of archaic. They've been the same for years. But even if you have tower speakers, I recommend that you set them as small if you got subs in the room, because what happens is if you set them as large, it'll assign a lot of the mid-range and low frequency audio to the tower speakers, and that's not necessarily always bad, but in most situations you want all of your deep low frequency bass going right to your subwoofer and not your mid-range speakers. In a system like this, we definitely don't want that, because you can see we have 5 1/4 woofers. So we want to send all of that bass to the subwoofer. Let's go out of here. Distances, you can see it measured exactly how far all of these speakers are, and then in relation to that, assign the appropriate amount of power. So under levels, you'll see a bunch of different settings here, different level calibrations, and this is relative to the volume physically being output on the unit. So like if you don't think that you're getting enough juice out of the system, you could always crank these up, and then your overall volume level being displayed will crank up faster at a lower bar percentage, if that makes sense. But I would recommend sticking with the calibration, running a couple demos, and seeing how it performs. Crossovers. So individual crossover selections, you can see what it assigned the fronts, the center, the surrounds, and the top mids at. For surrounds and your top mids, they're always going to be a little bit higher on frequency response. Now, if you had larger speakers in the front soundstage, you would see them going into a lower hertz crossover, because they will have more mid-range to work with, but these are in walls. Now bass, I had assigned this prior and it looks like it saved it, but I always go into the speaker and bass selection and do LFE plus main, because what that'll do is even if you're listening to music, it will output the bass to the sub. Whenever you just select LFE, and then if you go into like all channel stereo or 2-channel stereo and you go to play music in the room, it's only going to output to the speakers, not the subwoofer as well. And then your LFE crossover, I always take it all the way down to 80 hertz, and that way your bass comes through solid on just the subwoofer, separate from the speakers, so it doesn't muddy it up. You get nice, deep, hard-hitting bass under 80 hertz to the sub, and that way, like, because if you crank it up to, say, like 120 hertz on the subwoofer, you're going to get a lot of mid-range coming through the sub, which can kind of distort your dialogue, especially if you have the sub at the front of the room. Well, that kind of gives you guys a quick little overview of the settings, as well as the difference between Dolby Surround and Dolby Atmos. I hope that this helped you guys with your system setup. I'm gonna go ahead and play a demo for you. All right, so we're about to start this demo, and this is just the Horizon demo off of Dolby's, one of Dolby's trailers, basically. I like it because I've heard it a million times and I know what it should sound like. You have options for different types of formatting in movie surround. Obviously, you're not going to get Dolby Atmos if you're not in the correct format. So you always want to select Dolby Audio, and this will pick up all of the Dolby Audio automatically, and dependent on what movie that you're watching. So obviously this is Atmos. It should decode it properly for Atmos, which we'll be able to tell pretty quickly whenever this trailer plays. One thing that you can do if you're going to be watching standard programming like cable for like sports or, you know, the news or whatever, is going to be multi-channel stereo. I use this a lot, more so like in my living room, just because it's going to fill the whole room. The difference is like in Dolby Surround, what it's doing is sending the audio right to the center speaker for your dialogue, and then you got a mixed front sound stage for the front left and right, which is where a majority of your audio comes from, these three front speakers. But then it sends your surround effects to your surrounds and your surround rears, or your overhead Atmos and your rear surround. And then in multi-channel stereo, what it's doing is mixing all of the effects together and putting them through all of the speakers all at one time, so it's more room filling. In a theater, you're really just going to use this for music, multi-channel stereo. But just wanted to cover that, make sure you guys knew. Then there's DTS if you're going to be watching movies with those formats. Okay, let's go ahead and play this demo.
We're so used to hearing sound this way, we don't notice that it is merely a fraction of what its potential could be. But what if sound could be extraordinary? Again? Precisely move in any direction in this theater, whether the sound sweeps from the back, it's all the way in front, marks overhead, almost anywhere in between. Today, you feel every dimension. How does that sound?
All right, guys. Well, I hope you enjoyed this quick overview of Dolby Surround versus Dolby Atmos 7.1 versus 5.1.2. If you found this informative, just go ahead and smash that subscribe button down below and give me a big thumbs up on this video. And if you guys would like to purchase anything for your home theater, give us a call, show your support. We do have nationwide free shipping and a low price guaranteed. We really appreciate you guys. Till next time, this is Zach, Dreamedia Home Theater. Thank you for watching.